We have no other country but this. So I think, just like most of you, I feel very passionate about Nigeria. And I believe that Nigeria will be great again. I believe that Nigeria has the potential to be the world leader as a Black nation. I believe that Nigeria can be better than what we are seeing in the present state. I believe that we can influence the outcomes of Nigeria and Nigerians. I also believe that there are thoughts and ideas around this room that can take us in the direction of those beliefs. So today, I will be joined by several panelists who are going to demonstrate to us how things have been either in their times, what they think should be going forward, and how Nigeria in itself will be shaping out as we speak. So permit me to let you know that I won't be here alone. The panelists are all already in the studios, and I am very sure that in no distant future, we would have everyone that would be able to deal with the issues that we are raising. So please let us just be patient as we take this short break. And when we come back, we will be reeling out all the people that are in-house and introducing them so that we can start this wonderful conversation today. Once again, I welcome you to the Oktoberfest Dialogue 2022 edition.
For its greatness, hence locked in conviction, the conviction that drew unity on a map with affection and dear diversity to come, nurtured our collective dreams, renewed Nigeria and called it ours. The conviction that birthed structures, preventing human bodies from convulsing the ground, like the Wuse General Hospital, National Eye Center Kaduna, the Able Presidential Villa, home of banks like CBN headquarters of Abuja, National Intelligence Agency, FEPA headquarters, the Abuja to Kano Way, an escape route from potholes, completion of the third mainland bridge, and lots more into reality. This man with a big heart in a land of virtue, the pride of Sahel on a God's own state, a man of confluence. These are not just slogans, but the traits of a man who do not understand limits, just like we do not understand God. Nigerians, bask with me as I join the sun in celebration of another gifted heart of the universe, a strength placed in power, moving the world to a blazing pasture, a therapeutic dust bearing all shades of greatness, a man who carried a country at heart to a war zone and had warriors cradling at his feet. General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. Boldness, even boundary no fit stop him. Gabade General Babangida mu Nigeria, Babangidan Samaniya, daga jin sunan shi kasan gwani ne, Rabbi ya kero mana shi ba alfahari bane, mun gode da kyautar Abuja, da kasar mu ba a bar ja bace, Babangidan zamani, Allah ya ja zamani. The man who placed Kogi, Osun, Yola, and 6 other states on nothing and a country stood. Now that 81 is a prayer point, with God embedded in you, we pray that He becomes your strength and health through the remaining days of your life.
Welcome back. That was a brief interlude on the life of a visionary and global statesman, our former president, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, in whose honor we are holding this event today. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. So far, we have 48 participants, and we are glad that you are all here with us today to celebrate Nigeria's independence and also have this well-rounded conversation with the theme Nigeria First, Always. It is the first October dialogue being held and hosted by the Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida Legacy Dialogue, which is the brainchild of the Ibrahim and Mariam Babangida Presidential Library Foundation. And at this point, I would like to introduce the guests and panelists we have with us today. Earlier on, you heard from Mr. Olusoji Adeni. He's an experienced social development expert and lead consultant with a demonstrated professional history spanning over 20 years in the United Nations. He's the former chairperson of the UN Pensions Fund. He's also skilled in nonprofit organizations, social policy specialist, social safeguards and safety nets with strong communication skills, program monitoring and evaluation, and also humanitarian response performance tracking. I present to you Mr. Olusoji Adeni. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, and thank you for that wonderful welcome remarks. Next is Professor Oke Ikechukwu. Dr. Oke Ikechukwu is the Executive Director, Development Specs Academy. He's also a Senior Fellow in Nnamdi Azikiwe University and a member of This Day editorial board. He's a certified professional mediator and conflict resolution practitioner. He's also the regional patron of the Nigeria Karate Association. He has attended the Nigerian Institute of Strategic and Policy Studies, Kuru, the Leadership Institute, Arlington, Virginia, USA, the Character Counts, the Character and Personality Training Program of the Jefferson Institute, USA, amongst others. I present to you Professor Oke Ikechukwu. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us this morning. We are indeed very glad to have you. We also have Miss Adora Onyechere. She's a Nigerian broadcast journalist, gender equality and women's rights advocate and politician. Adora has worked in television for over 15 years and is one of the most widely recognized faces on Nigerian television. She is currently the host of her own show, Gender Agenda, an interactive 30-minute TV program on women's issues and policy literacy, cutting across various sectors in Nigeria and airing exclusively on the Africa Independent Television AIT network. Welcome, Ms. Adora. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, and happy Independence Day. We also have with us on our panel this morning, Mr. Bright Jaja. Mr. Jaja is a social entrepreneur, a branding expert, filmmaker, motivational speaker, and youth leader with an unshakable belief in the abilities and chance of Africans to excel in the global economy. Bright Jaja was listed in the 5th edition of Forbes 30 Under 30 list of Africa's most accomplished young entrepreneurs, tech startups, and artists. Mr. Jaja recently received the 2019 Sound City Most Valuable Person Festival Award for innovation and excellence in entrepreneurship and digital influence. Mr. Bright Jaja, thank you very much for joining us this morning, and happy Independence. We look forward to your very wonderful contributions. Also on the panel with us this morning is Mal Mukhtar Shagaya. Mukhtar Tolani Shaga is an international development expert and energy executive with over 10 years of work experience spanning across various sectors, including energy, manufacturing, finance, and diplomacy in both the public and private sectors. In line with his passion for energy and development, Mukhtar founded Let There Be Light, LTBL Solar Solutions, born out of the idea to bring sustainable electricity to the masses at an affordable rate. And he also co-founded the Rising Generation organization, RIGO, a non-governmental organization that focuses on youth empowerment, political advocacy, and nation building. Mukhtar is currently the executive director at Asola Systems Nigeria Limited, a director at Practoil Limited, and serves on the board of other companies as well as a non-executive director. Thank you very much, Malam Mukhtar Shagaya. We are very grateful that you made our time to join us this morning on this very, very important the October 1st dialogue. We appreciate that you'll be with us throughout the session. Thank you for coming. Also joining us this morning is Murtala Abdullah. He's an assistant editor with Hume Angle newspaper, online newspaper. He also heads the Armed Violence and Climate Security desk. Murtala writes on trends associated with security and impact of climate change in Nigeria and the Lake Chad region. He's also the co-anchor of the Crisis Room podcast series. Murtala is also a World Economic Forum Global Shaper with the Abuja Hub, where he serves as a climate and environmental chairperson. He's the founder of Goro Initiative, a nonprofit promoting youth perspective on climate change, development, and security. Also with us this morning is Mrs. Joy Iloze, a pharmacist and author and a total health and wellness practitioner. She bagged her degree in pharmacy from the prestigious University of Jos and currently pursuing a master's degree in psychology in the University of South Wales, majoring in health and wellness. She's the managing director of Jomic Pharmaceutical and Wellness Store, and is also the founder of Everyday Attitude, an online platform focused on well-being and personal development. She has also published 2 books, Release Your Mind and Getting It. Both are presently on the Amazon Books platform. She's married with 2 kids. Ladies and gentlemen, these are our panelists this morning, and we are looking forward to a very, very robust conversation. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our panelists, our invited guest. In the words of President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, he said, first and foremost, there must be a country first. If you destroy a country, how can you be the president of Nigeria or a governor? So it is on this note that we are having this conversation, Nigeria first and always. Our conversation will go round the several issues that bedevil us, that challenges us as a country. But first, the question I would like to pose to the panelists this morning is, how do we unite and work towards national progress? How do we make it a collective decision to save Nigeria? The panelists can go on ahead in no order, but I would like the panelists to also speak to their sector of expertise. So if you're a gender activist, speak on how we can entrench gender appropriateness in Nigeria. If you are an economist or a security expert or a democracy expert, please speak to your sphere of influence. And the question I'm posing to you at the moment is, how do we make a collective decision to save Nigeria? Thank you very much. And the conversation now begins.
Thank you. I think you have done a very good introduction of the panelists, and I'm so excited to be part of this. I would like to ask Professor Okechukwu to start the convo, especially around the issue of governance, which is, of course, governance and leadership is a space. So let's have him first. Prof, if you're there. You need to unmute, sir. Yes.
Okay, I'm okay now, right?
Yes, you are. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, thank you very much. Nigeria first and always. And the rider to that is, how do we engender national unity wherever we are? Nigeria first. That means that Nigeria is not a piece of land, but individuals living in a particular place who call themselves Nigerians. they need to be citizens. And that means that citizenship education has to be re-emphasized, not just academic learning. So intervention number one, there are various levels of leadership at the level of the home, at the level of the school, at the level of the community, at the level of the state, and then the federal level. Now, if we are meeting in the hope of creating national unity by brief lectures, it will not happen. It can only happen if the various structures that define the Nigerian state, which is made up of various layers of leadership, are properly oriented towards the concept of one nation and one people. If I'm a local government chairman, under me are ward chairman and council chairman, and also traditional rulers. And there's constant insecurity in that place, or there's constant conflict between various components of Nigeria that are there, and nobody is holding me responsible. They are pointing at the state governor or the president of the country. It means that even at the level of problem appreciation, that we do not understand what it means to work towards one Nigeria. So if as local government chairman, I'm only talking about what's happening in Abuja, meanwhile, everything around me is going bad, am I really talking about Nigeria all the time and always? The answer is no. So the first and most important issue is the quality of leadership, the capacity of leadership, the repertoire of ideas and policies with which leadership is driving both national consciousness and the national development. As we stand today, we remain a frightfully divided country. And if you're to go by the paradigms we are seeing from some of our leaders, not all of them, they almost give the impression that the Nigerian state is a comfortable criminal enterprise for the benefit of those who have access. Now, how do you counter that? How to counter that? Yes, you can turn around and say most of the citizens are there's actually citizen buying into many of the things that are wrong. But it's about leadership. What signals are coming from the leader? If we go back today, this is IBB Mariam Babangida platform. There's a dialogue on the Day of Independence, which is about strengthening Nigeria. If we are to use the trajectory of the person or persons in whose name this platform is put together, how did that man constitute his government? What kind of policies did he drive? What was the ethnic spread? What was the conceptual framework with which he drove national conversation? We all know that if that kind of courage, disposition, network of policies, and geographical spread of Nigerians that constitute that government, if you have that kind of configuration today, you won't be talking about national unity. You will have national unity. You won't be talking about Nigeria first. You will have Nigeria first. So what are the things missing now? Number one, myopic leadership at all levels. Two, the challenge of leadership recruitment at all levels, whereby capacity is not the issue. At that time, it was capacity. We know you are the best at this. Come, I'll give you the job. You do it. Those things you've not had the platform to carry out for Nigeria, come and carry it out today. That's not happening now. If I'm your PA and I've been carrying your bag for about 3 years, the only skill you can claim that I have is the ability to carry a bag and say, good morning, sir, and open the door. And then I say, oh, this boy has been with me, and I make him a head of a government agency. He doesn't understand what it means. He only understands privilege. That now he can use a jeep. Now he can have his own police orderly. Now people must man his gate. Now nobody can see him easily. That is a crisis. That's why Nigeria is not coming first. The other element, of course, is to think of national infrastructure. I saw the intro where the young lady was talking about Third Mainland Bridge and the rest of it. When did Nigeria begin to shrink? You see, the Nigerian railways used to be the arteries of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Just like arteries carry blood to every part of the body, the railways went everywhere in the country. That's how in new places like Lafia, Saminaka, Kajuru, all the way to Kauran and Moda by train. You go the other way around, Otukpo. Look, you understood the physical and human geography of Nigeria just by traveling, and it was cheap. When last did that happen? And so Nigeria first is not a matter for intellectual conversation. It's a matter of restoring the structures. First, the attitude. Second, the policies. Third, the transparent indication of honesty. And finally, the physical infrastructure for faith in the Nigerian state. Now, the Nigerian state has to then be defined and seen to be an overarching framework for driving the common good. But where, contrary to this notion, the idea of the Nigerian state is a framework that wields the forces of coercion, but within which framework everything is collapsing, what you then find will be a withdrawal of faith from the state and consolidation of state of faith in small enclaves, whether you call them state, region, local government, communities, etc. So in summary, and as a first intervention, what I'm saying is for Nigeria to come first, everyone who stands forth in the name of Nigeria should be seen to be putting Nigeria first. Second, people in public office should show that they have the capacity to be embarrassed if they're not doing well. Today, it's impunity all the way, with everybody going by private jet and all the roads are bad. That cannot put Nigeria first. If you look at the criteria for emergence as a public, as an aspirant for any political office, yes, it's a democracy, government of the people. But what we are seeing is government of the people who have money, because if you can't pay, you can't get the nomination form. And then that the collateral damage of that on youth development and youth culture is that it has created also a new generation of young Nigerians who mistake visibility for impact, who mistake declarations for intelligence conversation. Oh, we want this, without prejudice to the effort and wisdom and determination that led into the enactment of the Not Too Young to Run bill. I held the view, I still hold the view and continue to maintain that the bill was unnecessary, a distraction, and that it created the illusion of achievement for the young people. Because the Nigerian constitution as it exists today is not against the youth. Not too young to run. What's the age at which you're qualified to be president is within the age of the youth. Okay, the bill is in place now, probably for 3 years. Has it done anything about not too young to have the money to buy a presidential ticket for 100 million? So the national narrative and leadership recruitment process, especially in terms of its impact on the leaders of tomorrow, is disruptive, is misleading, and is delusional for them. And that's why you find that most of them with leadership potential are just in the urban areas and making speeches and going on Twitter and on Facebook. That is not. Look at all the leaders who have any record that we remember today, beginning from Ahmadu Bello. They were always in touch with the lowest levels. Look at the tenure of Babangida as president. How did he know all those people? Is it by sitting in Dodon Barracks or in his comfort zone as a general? No. If you don't have the ability to get to the grassroots, you create tentacles by employing people. Now, those are the types of leaders we lack. People who sit in government houses and run budgets, and year after year, nothing on the budget of the last 3 years is seen on the ground, and nobody is ashamed. And that's why sometimes I ask some people in the course of conversations, some of the things we are seeing in the Southwest, do you think it could have happened while I was there? Much of what we are seeing in the North, is it not the kind of thing that Ahmadu Bello will have said? Are you not ashamed in your area? This sort of thing is happening. Who is in control? So you see that there's a conspicuous decline in the quality, stature, character, and personal dignity of people who occupy public positions. They on their own cannot put Nigeria first. But if somebody were to emerge who begins to put Nigeria first, then you have what you call leadership signaling. Why is it that nobody protested? When Babangida made all kinds, gave people all kinds of positions based on competence. Why is it that Nigerians did not protest when Abiola and the King Ibe came out with Muslim tickets? They were convinced of the truth of what they represented. We like this man, we can trust him. Now, contrived leadership recruitment templates, which is basically elite conspiracy to throw up from among themselves individuals, is part of the crisis we have. And when you also know that over 70 to 80% of the billionaires we have today became billionaires in the last 22 years of democracy with no clear known means of livelihood and without impacting lives, even among their extended family members. It tells you then that the attempt to speak of Nigeria first is already partially sabotaged by an elite that creates the impression that Nigeria is a fraudulent platform for self-enrichment. Imagine there's a change in that orientation by just the leader on top. That will be the end. Everybody will be running for cover. So those are my initial interventions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof. And I think I'm not wrong. Kazim, you can go ahead. I see your hand up already.
Okay, no, I just wanted to point that we needed to invite the next panelist. So go ahead, please.
Definitely. Okay, thank you. And at this point, I would like to just say thank you, Prof, because for me, you have set the stage. And for me, you have definitely aroused a lot of thoughts that within my mind expressed what we should be looking out for in order to fix Nigeria. We need to think outside the box. We need to focus on nationalism beyond the individualistic thinking of majority of our politicians in the space that we have now. And of course, we have someone that could speak to the influence of that even on the political and business environment. So let me bring in Malam Mokhtar Shagaya to kindly intervene in this space. Mokhtar, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. And good morning to everyone. Thank you, Prof, for that opener, which was quite very interesting. The one thing I would say that I did not agree with was the comment you made about the not too young to run bill. I think for myself, having benefited from that bill, and as I am now the candidate vying to represent the good people of Ilorin West and Asa under the APC platform, this would not have been possible had the not too young to run bill been introduced. So where I take it from is, mine is more of a historical position of how Nigeria ended up where it is today. And I think people need to be aware of that before we now speak about the issues around patriotism and nationalism, etc. And we need to distinguish between patriotism and nationalism. So firstly, modern African states were not designed as a result of like local nationalist forces or indigenous social forces, right? The African states were imposed, right, externally, and imperial powers did not take cognizance of our differences in religion, ethnicities, or tribes, etc., before forming the national borders, right? Sometimes these tribes and ethnicities have conflicting interests, right? And what we're now seeing is an exacerbation of that, having not been able to have a, let's say, a social national cohesion prior to being given these nations. I mean, if we look at Italy and Germany, prior to becoming nations, those two countries existed with their common cultures, with their ethnicities, etc., and language. However, over time, they became nations, right? We did not have the same experience. So now I want to speak about patriotism. Now, patriotism, in its simplest form, is a sentiment, right? A psychological attachment to one's nation. So it's quite similar to nationalism, but different. So here's the difference, and here's the what we should be speaking about, and kind of what we're already speaking about. Patriotism means citizens are proud of their country. Essentially, the fundamental of patriotism is that The citizen is proud of the country he comes from, because of what the country is doing. Now, nationalism is being proud of one's country regardless of what the country is doing. So the first gives a sense of responsibility. And it is that responsibility that increases patriotism within citizens of the land. Nationalism, on the other hand, is more of arrogance that often leads to war and conflict with other countries. So I think we need to distinguish between the two. And I think patriotism is something that is more results-based for the majority, as opposed to nationalism. So those are two areas where I felt we should have some more clarity. Now, in terms of breaking down, I've broken it down to respected political elites, youth, workplaces, and corruption. So respected political elites, in my opinion, should speak more towards cohesive goals and a more cohesive vision at every opportunity. The language used should always be one that promotes cohesion across tribe, ethnicity, religion, or region. Right now, many Nigerians feel what the issues that are being discussed are more tilted towards selfish interest, ethnicity, religion, or region. So I think that is really important to be able to have a more cohesive national ethos and ideals towards a greater Nigeria and towards achieving our national aspirations.
Thank you.
Now for the youth, in my opinion, we the youth, aside from sporting competitions or more recently in the entertainment industry, youth have less pride for Nigeria as a result of situations that have been taking place over years. Now I feel to get that emotional attachment back, we need to display more of the features that were displayed by our founding fathers, more of the features displayed by His Excellency, the former military president, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. If we are able to do that, because these are things they did at a youthful age, and we have the potential to be able to do the same as youth of Nigeria. We've displayed that dynamism, we've displayed that talent in sport, in entertainment, etc. And certainly we can do the same in politics and governance.
Thank you, thank you, Mukhtar.
Okay.
Can I just stop you for a moment, because I want to take the conversation in the flip side of the conversation. And you've raised a very important issue around the vision of the youth in connecting with the reality of the political space. And it brings me to a very important element, which is the use of the media platforms, which is the use of communication platforms, which can make or mar decisions. So at this point, I'd like to bring in Adara. Adara, you need to give us an insight as to what exactly would be the direction that we should be looking at, considering the importance of use of media, appropriate use of media. Thank you.
All right, I didn't hear the last thing you said. Sorry, you were muted a bit.
Okay, sorry, I was saying that you should just give us an insight into the best way forward, putting our feet in the direction of appropriate use of media, and of course, our journey into inclusion, gender, and otherwise. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Happy birthday to Professor.
Thank you. He's a Nigerian to the core. He shares the birthday of Nigeria. Ms. Adara, do we have a power issue from that end? Okay, while we're waiting for Adara to get back, Ms. Joy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Do you mind coming on with the dimension of youth engagement in order for us to have a nation full of energetic youth that are mentally stable to deliver the Nigeria of our dreams? What are the issues and how can we navigate that pathway?
Thank you very much. For the youth and the engagement, I believe we could start from our mindset. Most of the youth already have a negative mindset about Nigeria. They really do not believe that Nigeria have enough to offer. So if your mind is already made up about a country, you don't believe the country can offer you anything, how do you want the best for that country? So it's all about, when it comes to the youth, I would say it's all about teaching some mindset, seeing the positive parts of Nigeria. I honestly believe that when it comes to the Nigeria problems, when it comes to Nigerian issue, why Nigerians are so negative about Nigeria, it boils down to from childhood. You can't just immediately just start becoming a non-Nigeria. It's a process. You develop it. It's a process. So it starts with the parents of the child. What did they tell the child? That's the primary educators. What did they tell the child about Nigeria? What's the child about their country, their root? What do they know about their root? It also boils down to the schools. That's the secondary educators. You know, there are some schools that they don't even recite our national anthem any longer because they just go straight to schoolwork. And some schools, they actually recite these items, but they don't know what they are saying. They just read it, blah, 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 blah. But they don't understand the wordings of what they are saying. This is where it starts from. This is where the mindset change starts from. When you say, one nation bound in freedom, peace and you understand what you mean. Or do you just read it? That is where the mindset changes come from. Then the third part is the tertiary level, of course, the environment where these youths are. You know, most of the environment, a lot of negative things surrounds them about Boko Haram, fightings and all that. But in the midst of these positive, negative things, there are a whole lot of positive things surrounding our country. Like Nigeria has a great vegetation. We have places, we have beautiful people, we have creative minds, we have a lot of startups. The youths are doing marvelous works in Nigeria. So it's all about focusing on the positives and the negative. Yes, the negatives are there. You know, this great country called America, they make their citizens believe that the country, they focus more on the positive part of the country. It's not so great a country, but they choose where to focus on. But we Nigerians, we focus more on the negative parts. So it actually starts with our mindset for the youths to understand that Nigeria has a lot to offer, that we can't always dwell in the negative. There's the positive part in everything. I believe with that mindset change, it will make the youth more patriotic. And for you to be patriotic, you have to start from within, from your mindset. I believed in this country. You cannot just want to be patriotic or the nationalism, like the other speaker said. You want to devote to this country, but you have to have it in your mind, that in your attitude, that I believe in this country. And it starts by looking at the positive parts of our country. Hope you could hear me. Like my went off. Hello?
We can hear you. Are you
So, hello?
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
So what I believe for the youth is for us to start from the mindset, their attitude about Nigeria. Creating this positive mindset is not by, it's intrinsic. You start from the inside and we'll train them to be better, right? From the home, from the parents, what we tell our children, from the schools. When we sing national anthem, when we talk about Nigeria, do we know the history of our country? Do we know? I believe that history should be taught more. not just in primary schools, a little bit in secondary schools, even when they divide to arts and science, the science students should know more about their country, because that's what this great country, these other countries do. They make their youths understand the good parts of their country. And Nigeria has a lot of good parts to offer, but just that we focus a whole lot on the negative part and we move the good part aside. That's all we see. And this is not a good mindset for the youth. And once they have this made up mindset, it's difficult to break it down. So I believe that if we start from a younger age, it will help inform a good mindset for our youth.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Adora. I mean, Joy, we really got that in the context of how we need to catch them young and make sure that even while they sing the national anthem, they actually know the wordings and the lyrics of the anthem in such a way that they begin to build themselves into the nation that they want to be part of. Thank you. I think Adora is back now. You want to share your thoughts on the media space. What should we be doing? How can we increase inclusion? And how can we use media more responsibly?
All right, thank you so much. I'm sorry about that. I think the network was a bit fuzzy. I was just saying earlier how and where we are as Nigerians, but I think I'll just go straight into it. First of all, I think over the years, if we look at the conversation on the media space, especially media operations in Nigeria, it started long before independence. And the media was an integral part of the struggle, as well as the national development, at national development and the subsequent administrations. And I think what we also need to see is that the media was at the forefront of the fight against colonialism and even after. And persevered and pushed forward, gave voices to the masses. And I think it was through the media, and I believe so, not think that it was the likes of the old, newspapers, the print industry that was used to galvanize Nigerians to support the nationalist clamor for independence, which we, are enjoying today. So for me, right now, we have a liberalization of the media space, and I would like to say that didn't come to us by happenstance. In fact, I would also give credence to His Excellency, former President of Nigeria, His Excellency Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, who was the first person to think about opening up the space for media in Nigeria, especially when you're talking about private broadcasting. And I know that we probably are aware of the fact that he paved the path of privilege for national broadcasting. And, one of the things he did was to bring favor and opening and, expanding the space for private investors, which opened up Nigeria to the rest of Africa and to the rest of the world. And that's why we have the privilege of, broadcast stations and other independent media thriving today. However, there has always been the question of policy regulation and control. And that has always been the conversation. And, even though we have the NBC Act of 1992, which paved the path for this liberalization and all of that, what is also the conversation to have 6 decades into our independence, and how has the media really utilized different types of information and media spaces to encourage unity in our space as a country, to encourage pride by citizens in our space as a country, to really look at the tenets of democracy and define what it means for us as citizens in our space now as we discuss our independence. Remember, the topic today is Nigeria First. How does that apply within the ethics of the media practice that we are practicing today? How does it apply to our news dissemination? How does it apply to how we use our platforms as people in the media space and even as citizens too? Because oftentimes when we look at the fact that we have moved from a place of military to parliament, and from parliament now we're in a practicing democracy, the idea of freedom of engagement, freedom of speech and freedom after speech comes into question, because now it is not only the subject of information. The subject of information is not only previewed to the media space in terms of mass media, but also to the people in the social space. So individuals are beginning to come into power especially since the the coming in of the new age of the social media, which became strategically relevant 2 decades before, challenging the conventional way of broadcasting and media. And that's the new dynamics that we are dealing with right now. And so, with the entrance of social media, you have found the transition from just traditional media and, broadcasting space to civil participation in the social media space, which brings the question of information dissemination and facts and misinformation. And that's where the idea of Nigeria First comes into the play of what the media can do differently, even with the social media and the traditional media. And, regardless of the fact that, critics would often say that the better of the social media creates both, greater opportunities and, amplifies democracy. It also creates a problem for a country like Nigeria. How? Because then you have people who will take the advantage of that space and use it as a precarious agenda to be able to, spread falsehood or engage people for, on unworthy agendas. So these are some of the conversations that I think that, when we're thinking the media, we're thinking how the spaces have evolved and how we need to rethink Nigeria First. That's one of the most important things. I remember that the media is solely responsible for citizens' orientation. It's solely responsible for citizen sensitization, awareness creation. And, you take a cue from countries that have gone through, crisis and how the media played a huge role. Like a country in Rwanda, the genocide was triggered by the radio. So we need to find ways to rethink the strategic engagement of the media with the masses and how they seek it as a tool for prosperity, for unity, for engagement, rather than a tool for, misconduct, for, violence, and rethink our unity as a country using the media by first re-educating the populace. You see countries, apart from Rwanda, you also see other countries like Yugoslavia, the massacre that happened there. In fact, the Nigerian Civil War comes to mind as well. So how do we rework the Nigerian First conversation in the space of the media? How do we look at policy regulation in the space of the media? And how can we also manage? Yes, we have a liberalization of, the media space. We have, the ability to enjoy freedom of ownership, licenses and privatization. But how do we also make sure that it's not in the wrong hands? How do we also make sure that rather than just, an economic institution, which it is slowly becoming for media owners, it is also about consciousness, conscientizing Nigerians, the principle of unity, the principle of diversity and connecting the cultures. How do we rethink that, rethink the process of engaging conversations with policymakers and regulators on who they give licenses to? I will tell you that most of the media ownership in Nigeria subtly and slowly, in fact, have begun to become an enterprise for rich politicians rather than people with social impact in mind. And so you see a lot of the platforms in the media spaces owned by politicians who are home businessmen and also use it as a tool for propaganda. So how do we check and balance those who get into the media space and what it is used for? And that's the critical way of looking at the solutions, here. One of the most important things I will also say is the fact that as an institution, it is important to point out the challenge of monitoring and evaluation. I mean, the NBC, the National Broadcasting Corporation Commission is a good platform, but beyond that, we have BOND, we have NUJ, and all of those things. But in terms of practice, because if you look at an institution is only as good as those who practice within it. The journalists, the broadcast journalists, the reporters, those who are responsible for news dissemination, those who are responsible for feedback, for awareness creation, for reaching out to the masses. We need to bring back the idea, the Nigerian First, the patriotic approach to the broadcast environment and even the social media through citizens' participation, especially within the journalism environment. And I say this because of the culture of corruption. I know that this sounds, I think being in the media space, I know arguably this might come off, as just, to some people as opinionated. However, because I'm in the space and over the years, and I've also watched the environment and how slowly the role of patriotism, the role of accountability, the role of questioning leadership relatively is slowly diminishing because of the need for survival, because of the need for economic dependence. And so you find out that where we are supposed to be looking at thinking Nigerian first and talking about, expanding the good causes and the positives of Nigeria, you find that the media often follows the trajectory of the conversations in the social space, emboldens it, and then triggers a reaction that is often not positive. So how do we re-engage that mindset? How do we rethink our policy engagement and also empowering the spaces where these people thrive? Are we looking at those who, the standardization of the media space from broadcast to traditional media to social media to multimedia? Are we also looking at the welfareism of the space where the media practitioners practice? So for me, I do feel that, yes, we have come of age, pre-independence, post, and now we are here 62 years after, 6 decades counting. We must remember that for Nigeria to be holistic and hopefully, you come to a place where it can say it has really mastered the art of citizenry, the media should take the frontline stage as the fourth realm of itself as an institution. And, I think that the conversation on inclusion will come later because this primarily for me is my first engagement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adora. And as a media personality and on-air personality, your thoughts are very much appreciated. I think we take it for granted at times because we lived in a time before now when social media was not counted as part of mainstream media, but it has changed now. Mohammed is going to be speaking to us as someone who writes for Human Angle online newspaper. And I'm sure in his thoughts around the area of security and the rest of it, we will see how misinformation, peddling of rumors and all of that is seriously affecting the way we do business. You have the floor, Mohammed. Mohammed, are you there?
Murtala.
Murtala, sorry.
Murtala.
Well, you know why.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know, the tech does not allow me to switch on my video.
No, it will allow you in a moment. I think yes, now you can. We can see you now.
All right, so thank you very much. And yeah, Mohammed is quite considering Murtala Mohammed, so I will still go with you.
You know why.
All right. Yeah, so thank you very much for the opportunity to add up to the conversation. It's quite an important one. Nigeria first. It's quite a huge statement when you look at Nigeria first and always. And if there's something that's really clear, is that you can only give what you have, and Nigeria can only expect as much as it gives to its people. And when you look at what has been happening across the country over the past years and months, there's a lot of events and trends happening that the average Nigerian does not really feel the country is doing enough for it. So when you look at it, so for example, you have over 20 people left behind after they were abducted on a government-owned train moving between Abuja and Kaduna in March. A lot of others have been freed after families taking their own initiative to do that. And so you will have expected that as a country, the Nigerian state will have done everything possible to ensure that the people don't last as long as they have done there, and to ensure that families are united with their loved ones and they get the entire kind of support that they need. You can also look at and in terms of the broader sense of the kidnapping for ransom epidemic, that's what I call it, has been happening in Nigeria over the years. It's quite disturbing, really. You look at also in terms of the broader scale of the insecurity across the country, how difficult it is to move around. Earlier, one of our speakers was talking about in terms of the train transport connectivity, connecting Nigerians. If there's something of how you build national cohesion, apart from having, for example, more commonality in terms of language, transportation is one of the key aspect of social cohesion. But when you have people unable to travel either because of poor infrastructure or insecurity, then it means that people will not be able to appreciate the geography itself. They will not be able to learn about other people, and then social cohesion becomes more difficult. And so it's really a challenging time that we are in. And then the media also plays a very integral role to either promote national stability, unity, and also prosperity. And that's why it's quite interesting how the media has evolved in terms of Nigeria from the traditional mint to a more new media way of reporting, or either canvassing for stories and also highlighting issues around transparency, accountability, ensuring that the country continues to work. The media, especially now, has become very, very important. And although there's been a lot of issues in terms of freedom for the press, ability of the press to do what it needs to do, either because of the political environment or the resource environment, considering the lack of investment that we see, or lack of investment opportunities that the media have here. So what new media has done really for us in terms of shaping what Nigeria is now is that the new media has helped to improve accountability. And so you have more people holding government to account. And so whether in terms of, for example, spotlighting a project that has been abandoned in a rural community or a community that is far away from the center, this has really been a new way of ensuring governance reach the people that matter the most. And so whether in terms of just picking your mobile device, taking pictures and saying this project has been abandoned for over these years, and then having either those who were responsible for implementing the project or disburse the money for the project react to it and having it fixed. This is super important. So new media is doing a lot in terms of improving governance in Nigeria, holding leaders to account. And when we hold our leaders to account, then we can expel the kind of social services, the kind of policies that we need to make the country better. And so when I talk of in terms of policy, in 2020, there was the EndSARS process, although there's kind of like division in terms of what the EndSARS means to different people. But for young people, the EndSARS was an opportunity to demonstrate the capacity to conduct civil process, both online and offline, to share our thoughts or to share thoughts around issues that matters to young people in terms of police brutality and broader governance issue. And so what it demonstrated is the fact that the outcome, so for example, setting up of panels to investigate atrocities of the SARS unit, its banning of the SARS, the conversation around police reform, although a lot has not happened as a lot of young people will hope for, but getting the conversation going, galvanizing young people was through social new media or social media, depending on what you want to refer to. So I think new media has brought us to really an important resource that helps us to amplify our voices, either as media professionals or as citizens who want to see better governance, who want the country to work, who want to stay here. We've seen lots of Nigerians, for example, leaving the country. We are losing some of our best and brightest because of governance deficit. And so what the new media or the media or traditional media has in terms of its responsibilities to ensure that we continue to hold leaders to account and continue to push for transparency, no matter how difficult or challenging it is. And broadly. So, for example, I focus a lot in terms of climate change and security, and we look at also how the media plays a role in highlighting the drivers of this trend. So, whether in terms of why is an event happening, or why is there a security threat, for example, in the Northwest or the Northeast, or the Southeast or the Niger Delta, what are the peculiarities in these issues? It's the job of the media to investigate these, identify the lapses within, and also profile solution. Although the government statutory. Also, in summary, what I'm saying is that the media is important for shaping the prosperity of Nigeria, and the new media has amplified that. So it's like a force multiplier for doing all this important work.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Murtala. And I think we should not forget the fact that no matter the extent to which we want to blame the media or put the blames on the lenses of those who walk on the street and try to capture what's going on, we need to also see the role of the international media in demarketing Africa and Nigeria in particular, because for them, they want to show the slums. They want to show the things that we're not getting right. They want to show evidence that Nigeria is not what it claims to be. We're supposed to be the big brother in Africa, and our foreign policy should reflect exactly this. But the challenge that we're having is that majority of the people that are supposed to understand this and deal with it decisively are not even taking positions that are in our favor. So thank you, Murtala, because you really bring out the facts, behind the marketing. At this point, let me bring in another brilliant contributor and panelist in the person of Mr. Bright Jaja. Bright Jaja, as we know, is a youth entrepreneur who has won several awards. So, I want to ask him precisely, how has the concept of just wanting to leave Nigeria affected the mindset of the young people in taking the right decisions as a Nigerian? Bright, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm just going to go straight to the point. I'm going to start with a story, something I experienced a couple of years back, I think 2019. I was in Washington, D.C., just going around, checking out the White House and other things. And a homeless dude came to me and my friend, and he's like, "Oh, you guys have some change. I really need help, right?" And then I was like, "Oh, I don't have anything with me." And then he heard my accent and he was like, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm Nigerian." And immediately he moved back. And I was shocked. I was like, "Why did you move back?" And he said, "I don't trust you guys." Now, I didn't know how to feel, if I should laugh, because this is a guy who is homeless and just asked me for money. Or should I be sad that this dude still thinks that I can steal from him? So, that experience just brings me back to this conversation where we need to understand that what one Nigeria, or what the global perception of Nigeria is, affects every single Nigerian, wherever you are, no matter how much money you have, no matter how much experience you have. As long as you're Nigerian, the general perception of Nigeria globally affects you, right? And for me, I really do not strongly believe in collective activism. I believe in individual activism, where as a Nigerian, you decide and make up your mind that you're going to do something that move the country and its people forward as an individual. Now, just to go to your question, to answer your question, I wouldn't blame any young person who is smart, intelligent, who has worked really hard, and who want to succeed as an individual and want to take their family away from poverty. I wouldn't blame them if they embrace an opportunity outside the country. Why? Because Nigeria has not created an enabling environment for young people to succeed. You can ask 10, 15 entrepreneurs, and they will tell you the struggle that they have to go through. Is it funding? Is it creating physical infrastructure that support businesses? Everything that has to do with growing a business in Nigeria is frustrating. And so that is one path. And businesses are the businesses are the key structure that employs people. And as long as businesses cannot succeed, it's hard to employ people. And so this young people would take advantage of any opportunity outside that would get them a sustainable livelihood, right? So that's one. But at the same time, I'm also going to tell another story of you choosing, regardless of this situation, regardless of the environment, you should personally to say, I have the mental to solve this away. I'm going to use myself as an example. In 2019, after we designed the whole structure around human capital development in Nigeria, I went to Dubai and I had an opportunity to meet a couple of really amazing people, and I pitched the idea to them. Now, the idea I was pitching to them was for them to come and invest in Nigeria, create skills parks and manufacturing centers and all of that. And it was exciting. They saw it and I was like, this is a great plan. Have you met a couple of your investors in Nigeria? And I'm like, no, I think that this would work if we're able to create that collaboration. And the offer I got from that table was, can you move this to Taiwan? We're going to pay you this amount of money to execute this in our country for the next 5 years. It was a great offer. I can't even mention the amount, but it was an amazing offer. I think I told one of my mentors here about it. But I got back home without even thinking twice. Like it was a no for me straight up. I literally sat there and told them, thank you for the opportunity, but my country needs this more, right? Now, was it a struggle the entire time, even till now? Yes, it is. But the choice that I've made, that I want, regardless of how much benefit I get as an individual, I put
Okay, thank you very much, Bright Chacha. I think it's just crazy how, what we have to go through with networks and all of that. That's still part of the Nigeria of our dreams, where we won't have to worry about things like networks. We've had two panelists thrown out within this space. And I want to just hammer on the last issue you raised about nationalism and patriotism. I used to work for the United Nations, and at one point I was working in Asia, in Indonesia precisely, and I was working in the education space. And I found out that what I was doing there was much more needed back home in Nigeria. I packed up my bag and came back home, and I left the UN. I resigned from the UN. And I started doing things that I thought would benefit Nigeria more than what I could have gained staying back in the UN and being a UN staff. So it's sometimes something that is very, very, very tough decision. Just like you said, you could have gone to Taiwan. Today we would see you flying our flag out there, which probably is a good thing for the country over there. But 1 million youths, 2 million youths in Nigeria could benefit from that same idea that you just pitched. And that will transform us. It will stop that drive, that desire to jackpot, like they say now, because there will be something to look out for, and there will be a reason to want to be a Nigerian and to stay back as a Nigerian. So thank you, Chacha. I was reserving one very important panelist, for the first contribution, and please join me, because I want to bring in someone who was around and has always been around since the time of our principal, and that's someone we call Mama Better Life, Ajia Amina Mohammed. Ajia, what have you to say about the grassroots environment, which was one of those key areas that was your focus in your days?
Yeah, Mr. Saji, before Hajia starts, let me introduce her so that...
Thank you. I thought you did. I thought you did at the beginning.
So that the panelists and the audience...
Thank you. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. We have 82 participants at the moment. That is a very, very wonderful number. They're all here to celebrate Independence Day with us and be part of this conversation. Thank you very much. Honorable Amina Mohammed, fondly called Mama Better Life, was a member of the House of Representatives. She won the Third Republic House of Representatives election And she's one who is well known for her patriotism and unity. For this, she was awarded the Unity and Patriotism Nigeria Award in 2016. She's an advocate of good governance and democracy. Honorable Amina Mohammed, Mama Better Life, thank you very much for joining us, and we are looking forward to your wonderful intervention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alkazim, for that wonderful introduction of Mama Better Life. There's no better way to introduce her than what you've said about her contribution, about being a former House of Representative member. But at this point, I just want her to weigh in on the issue of the grassroots and what we could do better to bring back the better times. Mama, we are honored to have you. Please go ahead, ma.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Happy Independence, Nigeria at 62. And we also congratulate the special great general at his last birthday on August 17, 2022. Yes, my name is Better Life because that's where I got my foundation and my ladder to be where I am today. First of all, I must give myself just 1 minute silence for my mentor, that is Mrs. Babangida. The women and the husband call her the commander of unarmed forces, Federal Republic of all Africa. Grassroots development and what we are seeing today. I myself, this is my 44 years in politics. I've never seen a situation where we are today. When we think back, when we came on board, when Ibrahim Babangida was the then military head of state, and at the same time a democratic leader. Every day he wake up with what will benefit the rural person. Every day in his life, he will wake up with what the rural person will benefit. He believed that that is where the population is, that is where the people are, because in every rule, in any leadership, people are the back of any leader. What we are seeing today is completely different from what we were coming from during the general, that is Ibrahim Babangida. When he came on board, he think on what to do. He started from the feeder road, which we called it Diffree. From the Diffree, all where there are villages, remote area, he makes sure that a grader goes to grade that road. It will enable people bring out their food stores that they've grown, farmers, so that they can have access to transport this food product to the nearest market. Number 3, he now created People's Bank of Nigeria, later created Community Bank of Nigeria. You can see where he's coming from, because the federal doesn't have any vote. The vote comes from the ward, the unit to the ward, from the ward to the local government, from the local government to the state, and makes up the federal. That's where he based his government for people. As I will still remember, during his time, he allowed people to form their political party. There was a confusion from one way or the other. He now look at us because we are still fresh. And we caught him, he said, learning is a process that we have to learn every day. There was 23 political parties in Nigeria formed by association that was allowed by his government then. He saw what we are doing. most of the things we are not doing very honest, and they are not transparent. He now decided to form the two political parties, which is the SDP and the NRC, using the symbol of Nigeria for Nigerian people, so that they can learn the political, democratic way of governing. He now banned the old politicians. He called those coming in new breed politicians. Because he was thinking about we that are coming in very fresh to the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Our memories are fresh. We are coming from the grassroots. And our election was based on option A4.
Yes, I remember that, Mama.
Kato Abayan Kato, which present government are scared to do that. But that is the best for Nigeria.
Yes.
Option A4. And then the old people were banned from going into such contest. When we came on board, he has a lieutenant. That's Mrs. Mariam Babangida. But behind any successful man, there must be a wife, a woman behind.
Yes.
And anytime he traveled out, Babangida is not the general, he's not the man that always travel just on his own like that. No. Anytime he's coming, he comes with a good policy. If there is going to be continuation, Nigeria will be like Dubai today. He said, look, you guys, when you build your house, do the small shop by your house. Start selling small things. The little money that is coming in, you take care of yourself. And you look at the population, look, especially what is happening today. If everybody is satisfied, we can't find ourselves sleeping with two eyes open. The insecurity, we've never had it. We never had it. We are the third republic House of Representatives. From the first republic to second republic, and where we are today, you can see that time the salary was 5,520 something naira. But we were living in peace and we are contented with what we have. That is why he called us new breed politicians.
Thank you, Mommy. Let me hold you.
Okay,
Let me
sir.
hold you there. We'll still get back to you. We are struggling with time now. We do have quite a lot of questions that people have already put into the chat room. And I see that some of them are just contributions. Please, if you would like to ask any question, this is the time. Please put it in the chat. If you want to ask any question to the panelists or want to make a contribution, please drop it in. I already see a very important contribution from Charles Adeogun Phillips. He said a lot has been said about what President IBB did as president. He clearly opened up the space for involvement of the private sector. More importantly, he recognized the role of the Federal Civil Service and empowered them. But what is left of the civil service today? The civil service runs the government and not politicians. Now, what lessons can we draw from what IBB did? Why haven't successive administrations been able to follow in his footsteps? I don't know if any of the panelists would want to answer that part of the question. Why hasn't successive administration been able to follow in his footsteps? I think Professor Oke did raise an issue around it. So if you're still ready to put a bit more light in 1 minute to that question, Prof.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, certainly. Why have successive governments been unable to follow that remarkable example? The reason is very simple and straightforward. The circumstances of his departure was one of them. And if you remember, the nation became far more divided at that point. He engineered the most credible election we have had in a very long time, which actually focused on Nigeria. And if you remember, the person who emerged in that election was very popular all over the country. Now, in the aftermath of that election, what followed was conversations that revolved more and more and more around limited interests. That's number one. In the final resolution too, if it was a resolution, matters got further complicated because when Abacha took over, I recall that Ibru, I was then on the Guardian editorial board. The Internal Affairs Minister set up a small group of consultants on national issues who were meeting every week, coming into Abuja for that purpose. There was also another resolution at a meeting presided over by DIA, which was not carried out. Subsequently, what did Nigeria become? So you find that all the pluses of those 7 years of the person we used to call the smiling general, the substance of those gains began to disappear in very, very limited perceptions of national issues. Without prejudice to those who came after him, you had inferior officers, people who you can't respect them, neither in their courage, in their turnout, in their ideas, nor in self-presentation. And also the narratives always lacked coherence. Subsequently, we moved on to a democracy, but that democracy had also led to a point, unlike the new breed we had about before then, you had what I consider a leadership recruitment template that had no paradigms for assessing capacity or competence. And so things began to roll on and on. Now, how do you, after so much division, begin to talk national development when in fact immediately preceding democracy was a government that did not allow any form of conversation? Compare the 7 years before the ING with the debate. That's the time Nigerians realized they could just talk until their mouth was paining them. They were being consulted. They felt free. It was practically like a genuine democracy. What was the first decision when he took over? That time there was a price put on a price of 1 million naira for the state that will come first in environmental sanitation. What did he do when he came on? He said, listen, cleanliness, it shows you have respect for yourself. There are things you don't put on the table for award and all of that. A liberalization of the space. Now, the only person who can liberalize the space is somebody who has competence and then confidence in himself and who desire to nurture a competent replacement generation as well. But the others were not as distant. So subsequently, that has bettered the kind of thing we have. Leaders with a very small vision, nationalists who didn't know anything about the nation, etc.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the briefness because I know you could give us a national lecture on that concept alone, but thank you for making it brief. At this point, I also noticed that there is another question in which we had an anonymous attendee says, from the discussion so far, the issue of tribe, sectionalism, and religion is not allowing us to put Nigeria first. For example, at every gathering, government or private function, the Muslim or Christian clerics are always the first to make prayers. And therefore, what happens to the second stanza of our national anthem that is supposed to be the national prayer? Who would like to take that? My panelists? The issue of religion, sectionalism, and ethnicity. Did I see a hand? Oh, Prof, thank you for having us. Can Prof, please unmute yourself, Professor Moghalu. I see you in the audience. If you can kindly join as a panelist, it will be easy for you to contribute by video, sir. My host, can you please allow Professor Moghalu? Mama Better Life, are you there, ma? If you may just wade in on that particular topic of bringing religion to everything, where at the beginning of our meetings and all that, we have to pray in the two major religions, knowing that there are other religions that are also minorities in the country. So, Prof, you are there. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. We don't take this for granted, sir.
Not at all. I've been on the. I've been on it for the past.
Wow, thank you, sir. We're
45 minutes.
Please go ahead, sir.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Greetings to everyone. Happy October 1st. I just wanted to chime in first on the very hard knot you just dropped for everybody to crack. As usual, I'm offering myself up for sacrifice. So on the matter of religion, ethnicity, and all of that, I think we need to be, when we say Nigeria first, we have to be honest with ourselves about what Nigeria first means. Nigeria first does not deny us of our ethnic or cultural origin. It does not deny us of our religion, whether we are Muslim or we are Christian. But what Nigeria first means in the context of nation building and nationhood means that if we are citizens of Nigeria, then Nigeria as our country and as our nation must come first. What does first mean? First is not some abstract theoretical thing. It means that our citizenship, our nation, our membership of this union, and the rights we should derive from it come before anything else. So let me give you a practical example. When I was deputy governor of the central bank, and I was head of one of the 4 directorates of the bank, I think it was financial stability at that time. Later on, I headed operations. So in meetings that I would conduct or chair, and I quickly became famous for it in the bank, or infamous, depends on where you want to stand. And I said, please, no prayers. We go into our official meeting. We pray in our homes, we pray in our mosques, but when we come to do business, we should face business. This is the approach that I would recommend, because praying in, there are functions of state where prayers are said. That's normal. But it's not in every routine office meeting, in every routine occasion, people get into prayers. Instead of using I think it was the second stanza of our national anthem. So the religious identity is replacing the nation building potential in the national anthem. So I would recommend that we focus more on the national anthem, the national pledge, and things like that. I think it would help us more, because the more we think that we're equalizing by having the Christians pray, the Muslims pray, it's not achieving that effect. But people don't either want to tell themselves the truth, or they don't actually realize that this is what is happening. So I would recommend we go more towards the national anthem, the pledge, rather than religious prayers of various denominations. I think that would help us.
Thank you, Prof. Yeah. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. Thanks for the contribution, and thank you for standing in. I see that I wanted to also bring in Mama Better Life, Honorable Hamina Mohammed. Are you there, ma'am?
The issue of prayers or the national anthem, let me tell you, people are just using this religion for their own benefit. Even citing the national anthem alone, go to the street, If you meet 10 Nigerians, hardly 3 will sing it very well. When there was a Mansa, this establishment it was established by Babangida. They aware people. Now they call it orientation agency. What are they doing? Go to the street and ask Nigerians, can you cite the national item? They don't even know the meaning for them to obey.
They don't.
So the religion issue does not even arise. Even the form for a child to go into school, you will see they indicated where, are you a Muslim or Christian? Doesn't call of Nigeria is a Nigerian. A child of Nigeria is a child of Nigeria. The former Deputy Central Bank manager was talking. If you look at the religion issue, because of the poverty rate in the country, everybody, even me, I can go and establish a religion house because I want to get money. Some people don't even go to the mosque or church on the day of the prayer because they don't have the offertory to do. So an issue of whether to pray or don't pray, God has already known our intention. But our intention in Nigeria is the Nigerian affairs and the people. This issue of religion, when God created this world, does He created the world with a religion? If it wasn't, is it not Adam and Eve? Then who follows suit apart from the Adam and Eve? This is the end time, so everything can be said. Like I was saying, the 7 years IBB spent in office, he did what people that spent 20 years in office have not done. He created awareness to everybody, and he made sure that a Maiduguri man won election in Makodi, a Yoruba man won election in Kano. If there is the region, do you think those people will be elected? Why can't we tell ourselves the truth? Nigeria is going very bad and bad and bad. During Babangida, Nigeria was a giant of Africa. Now what are we? If we cannot have 25 hours light, look at Cameroon here, Niger. Nigeria supplies power to other small countries, but yet we are still in darkness. Let's have only light alone. Electrification.
Thank you, Mama. Better life.
The central bank governor.
Thank you,
He's not giving the money to people that want the money. He's giving the money to the big people. You can
thank you, Mama. Thank you, Mama. May the good times happen in your lifetime, Ma. Thank you.
Amen. May IBB live longer than what it is.
Amen,
you don't allow me to talk. We want a way out of this insecurity. Let's go to Nigeria. Let's not deceive our God. God is watching us.
Amen.
Let's not deceive ourselves.
Thank you, Mama. I'm grateful, Ma. I see Malam Mokta Shagaya, your hand has been up. Do you want to wait in for 1 minute on this issue? 1 minute, please.
Yes, thank you very much. I just wanted to weigh in on this, and I just, because there's a quotation from the late Dr. Chuba Okadigbo, and I think it's absolutely apt and it's relevant to what we're speaking about. And he said, if you're emotionally attached to your tribe, religion, or political leaning, to the point that truth and justice become secondary considerations, your education is useless. Your exposure is useless. If you cannot reason beyond petty sentiments, you are a liability to mankind. And I think that really encapsulates essentially what we're talking about. Sorry, did you catch that?
I completely agree with you. I said that quote that you just gave is actually on my wall because I live it. I believe that it is completely responsible of us to focus on those issues when we already know that there are nations of this world that are not religious by any standard, yet their moral ethics is so strong that they have a nation. We raise our hands at every number of time to pretend to be religious, but our results are not exactly the same. I'm seeing hands of the panelists up. Let me go first for Adora while I'm checking other questions that are in the Q&A chat. If you're in the audience, please endeavor to first put your questions in the Q&A chat. I would then try to bring you up as I can, but please put it in the Q&A chat so I have an idea of which area you want to contribute. Thank you. Adara, you have the floor.
All right, thank you so much. And I think for me, I totally agree with what everyone has said here. And I think for me, I would want to ask or probably profile the conversation on the way forward. I mean, we have identified the problem, we can see it as an existing problem, but then how do we move from here to
Yes, our
solutions?
focus should be
Right?
solutions.
Yes. How do we move from here to solutions? And I would dare say that if you look around you in the social space, whether it's on the social media, across the real new mobilization, the real awakening of Nigerian youths across board, you will find that there is a new language of us being spoken. There's a new language of, this is about us, togetherness. It's a we movement. It's not about where you're from. It's not about your political background. It is about the Nigeria of our ideal. And it doesn't look at tribe. It doesn't look at religion. However, these sentiments of religion have often been shared by, will I say, the older class. I mean, the octogenarians who had led the leadership and, that have throttled the ideology that there is a turn-by-turn approach to leadership, which will only help to quell the dynamics or the dimensions of equality or equity across zones. However, I'd like to think about it differently. I mean, I feel that the power of tomorrow from our independence lies in the hands of the Nigerian youth and how they reshape that narrative. The potential is found in the generation of patriots, from the generation X to the millennials, to the generation Z, to even the up-and-coming generation Alpha, who believe that Nigeria has a lot to undoubtedly offer the world and the rest of Africa. And for me, I think that's the new narrative that they should start to rethink, to look at, what Nigeria can offer as a whole, as a country, regardless of where we are coming from, tribe, tongue, or religion, and begin to look at the comparative review of how we can maximize who we are in the global space. It's like saying, for me, a rose is a rose no matter where it grows, right? So if a rose is a rose no matter where it grows, it means that we have a collective ideology, an identity as a people first, as Nigerians. And that's why the theme, Nigeria first and always is really significant for this conversation, because if you're to carry that into the social space and really begin to exemplify what this theme means, it means that we're not thinking about tribe, we're not thinking about tongue, we're not thinking about religion. So solutions should be what we should be thinking. And for me, I believe that the new school of thought, the new awakening, the new conversation, and the courage of these hunger for new leadership should be maximized by speaking about one Nigeria, the nature of having to attribute whether this person comes from this section and should leave Nigeria because this section has not had a turn should be demystified as selfish, because what it does is that it pitches people against tribes and tongues. And so we young people have that role to redo that narrative going forward.
Thank you very much, Adora. I see Prof has his hand up as well. Prof, you'll please take to 1 minute. Thank you.
I will endeavor to do that. It's a matter of
just lower your hand, and Prof, lower your hand as well, so I know.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, the time of lowering my hand is not my speaking time. Simple fact, ethnic identity is a necessary part of personal identity. Let's not kid ourselves. But where the problem arises is where ethnic identity is mistaken also for proof of excellence. That's all. I mean, if you look at, yes, that is all. I'm Igbo. If I say I'm from Kano, my name is Okechukwu, people will be worried when they look at me. If I have a name, it shows where I'm from ethnically. It may indicate the choice of food if I grew up among my people, the choice of clothing. That is what you call ethnic awareness. It's a mandatory component of personal identity everywhere on earth. But ethnocentrism, I'm from the Southeast, I'm always wearing red cap and the rest of it. I speak Igbo, I eat nkwobi instead of burger. They say, that fellow, he gives you the flavor of his part of the country. And I don't mind. I come and see you eating your meal and tausha. I say, wow, this is your soup. It's not like, let me taste that, put a finger. Wow, I lick it. I say, well, it's nice, but I still prefer my bitter leaf. I'm your friend. We are friends. We're enjoying our diversity. There's nothing wrong with ethnocentrism. But where the problem is ethnic chauvinism, where based on ethnic identity, I rule that anything from my area must be the best. If I have a national event, it will be the food from my area. If I'm looking for people to employ, to be from my area, so that the upcoming generation must also understand the natural, the detail of the philosophical narrative about ethnic identity, so that they don't think that identity neutrality is necessary for national unity. It is not. Our forefathers were deeply rooted in their ethnic identities. In fact, Zeke was the only one who, if you met him, you wouldn't know where he's not from the north or the southwest because of his dressing. He was not ethnocentric. Now, sum that up in 10 seconds. Identity and passion for identity is necessary. Moving your identity out of your locality to the nation, which is the bigger body, is the call. You don't deny one in order to affirm the other, but if you put the national to the disadvantage, which is what is happening now, that's where the youth will grow up, try to take the space with the notion of ethnic neutrality. And that, of course, will create another one of cultural crisis, because they don't say, where are you from? So greater personal courage, understanding the distinction between these three jumbled up meanings of ethnicity whenever we discuss national politics. That will help.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof. I completely agree with you. We need to move away from those things that tear us completely apart. Bright, you have 1 minute.
I think I just want to add to what Prof just said, and I think it's key because we can't deny the fact that we are from different places, especially when it comes to ethnicity, and we can't just take that out of the picture. But at the same time, we need to also decide that we want to, it has to be a personal choice that we want to push Nigeria first. Like, it has to be something that is individualized. Understand that beyond my ethnicity or where I Nigerian first, and thinking of it from a perspective, you don't ask where the person is from first. You're just excited to see that there's a brother that's from where you're from. You're not thinking, oh, are you outside Igbo, are you Yoruba? It's like, you're Nigerian, and so yeah, let's link up. Let's have dinner. Let's have lunch. Let's work together. And I think we need to bring that back here. We need to see ourselves from a global perspective rather from a local perspective. We need to see ourselves as Nigerians first, and it also boils down to our intention. And if we're going to talk about solutions, the solution should come from having a more specific intention of moving from that mindset of I am this and I am that to this is what we need to represent generally from our educational system, from media. How do we propagate the idea of patriotism? How do we share the story of who we are, where we're from, to the next generation, so they understand that we are one country, we're one people, outside of us being outside Igbo or Yoruba. So I think a lot of needs to play a role, especially now that we live in a cropped world where the only information that is shared on social media is what we think life is about. We need to find a way to see how we can start propagating and sharing more information about our nationality, about what we are as Nigerians, what we represent, what connects us together, regardless of where we're coming from. That needs to be highlighted, that needs to be shared more, and to get young people to understand and engage. So I think that's my take on that.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Bright Jaja. I completely agree with you, and I think that we need to begin to think beyond the self and see what really the communities, the state can benefit from our inputs. I see a lot more questions are now coming in. How do we develop a people-oriented strategic plan which every aspiring leader can use as a basis for his or her manifesto towards elections? This is from Ekerete Olagan Ekom, MNIM. Thank you, Ekerete. I think this was actually addressed by Professor Okechukwu in his intervention. If you had been listening, you probably will have heard that he advocated for us to begin to think modularly, starting from what do we take out of our local government, of our representatives at the state level, of our representatives, for the National Assembly, and how can we ask them questions when they are not doing precisely what would take our people out of poverty. So let's begin to think along those lines and address it. The national objective, of course, if by the time we have, the overarching objective is not isolated from the individual state objectives or local government or community-based objectives. We can't have a big picture when even we can't see within our immediate environment. So thank you very much for that question. I see another question coming in from Idris Kadafo. How can we create a platform that will serve as an avenue for younger generations to collectively discuss issues of leadership, national unity, consolidation of democratic values, and provide new ideas and solutions to issues confronting us as a nation? Hey, that's why we are there. Get in touch with the foundation and you would see that we already have platforms, we already have fellowships, we already have internships that can allow young people become better versions of themselves, engaging in this type of discourse that we're having today for the future of Nigeria and Nigerians. So you're welcome. Just go to our website, register, and of course, you will be put through on how to better be a part. I'm trying to see how we can round up. We've gone well past the time, and I think the conversation has been very engaging. People really didn't want us to go, but let's take one person from the audience. Can we have Mohammed Amizu? Mohammed Amizu's hand has been up. Alhassan Mohammed, you are also up at the moment, at the time. Do you want to weigh in? Please bring one or two of them before we round up. Princess Obiajulu, if you're still there, I was asking you to put your question in. I didn't see it, but if you're still there and you want to ask directly, please indicate so that you can be brought into the studio. Mohammed Amisu, are you there? Please unmute and speak. Thank you. Alhassan Mohammed, are you there? Yes, please. So please, can you allow, please unmute. Now you can speak. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, the moderator. I must commend the organizers of this forum. I mean, it's always amazing when we are having, intellectual conversation about Nigerian development and Nigerian issues. And all the speakers spoke well. I must commend them for their insights and knowledge. What I will always like to say is, you see, Nigeria, there's no way a leader will be sent to us from the moon. That leader must come from Nigeria. And as long as we don't have that patriotism of owning the country, when we come to the public space and speak very well about the problems and the issue, and when we go back, we move to our original selves, we don't add value and don't display patriotism. I will always be talking round and round together, but I really enjoy the conversation and I must commend the organizers. We should be having this kind of forum where we have intellectuals to come and share with us their wealth of experience and knowledge. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alhassan Mohammed. Thank you for your very wonderful contribution as well. Yes, as a Nigerian, we really need to know that our leaders are going to come from within us. We are not going to import leaders from China. So definitely, we must build our leader and our leadership processes. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you. I see Maria Baba. Maria Baba, can you please unmute yourself and speak to the context? Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much much for organizing such a forum. It is quite interesting that today, being 62 years of Nigerian independence, I happen to be one of those beneficiaries who was on the stadium celebrating this day. 62 years ago, I was in the stadium.
Wow.
It gives me pleasure. And at the same time, I'm sad. It is pleasurable because that time, up till maybe like 20, 30 years back, I have enjoyed so much from Nigeria. Nigeria has given me everything. But things have changed. The leadership before and now is not the same. Before, people go into leadership to lead and give services to the people. But it has changed now, giving services to themselves rather than to the people. I'm happy I'm alive till this date. 62 years ago, I was a girl child in primary school. Well done, and I'm here to support this group, this forum, this platform. I will give my life to support it so that Nigerians, my children and grandchildren,
Thank you so much.
will benefit.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
so
Ajia
much.
Baba.
I am
We are
so
grateful.
happy. In fact, I am in tears. You have
We are
touched
grateful,
all the
man.
areas that need to be touched.
Congratulations to
Thank you.
Nigeria that a girl child
Thank you.
62 years ago is excited to even
Yes.
give her life for the purpose of the nation. That is nationhood
Indeed.
demystified. God bless you, man.
Indeed.
Thank you,
Thank you very
We
much.
appreciate
Thank you
you.
very
May
much.
Almighty Allah bless
Hi.
Nigeria.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I
Thank you,
mean,
Ajia.
amen. Amen.
Thank you. At this point, I would like to give each of the panelists just 1 minute to round up their thoughts so that we can begin to wind down. We're behind schedule. So I'll start with Adara.
All right, thank you so much, Ajia, for that. Thank you so much. You give me a lot of faith as a young Nigerian woman. You know, just hearing you say that, it means anything is possible in our time. And going from that trajectory, I'll just say that, you know, for me, since the return of democracy, Nigeria's had 6 election cycles. And one of the things that I'm looking at as well for Nigeria to really grow into is to open up the spaces for women's participation in leadership and also in politics. And I think that is what for me will be, you know, wholesome going into that conversation. And, you know, quickly, I look at our nation and going into the 2023 election, we still have the lowest rates of women. You know, presidential candidates, we have only 1, and then vice presidents, we have none. And you have over 1,100 candidates for Senate, but you have only 92 women, you know, who have emerged. House of Rep, you have about 1,118 men and only 92 women. So the numbers are dwindling. And my question is, where do we go from here? However, the solution is for women to come out to participate, to be present, to be deliberate, and not just for politics and elections, but also in nation building and driving policy literacy amongst young women, and also putting their time in their immediate environment, starting from the home front, because you know you start to change minds from where you are, and it starts, like they say, charity begins at home. Every family should begin to understand that both the male child and the female child have equal opportunities to become whatever they can be and grow them like that. Even though I know that for me, that wasn't so simple growing up in a family where, you know, there were gender dynamics, but going forward, we can change that narrative and open up the spaces. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I was hoping that you will bring in inclusion. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I know that you wouldn't let that pass. And let me go to Professor Oke.
Yes.
You have 1 minute to round up.
Probably less. Nigeria now, Nigeria always. Cannot be achieved by making speeches, cannot be achieved by limited engagement, cannot be achieved by purely social media. Let everyone begin to work where he is. If you're in the office, affect your colleagues with that kind of mindset. If you're a teacher, do the same. For me, I do a lot of youth programs. Hardly a month I don't have a youth engagement. And from each of those programs, I pick up some youths for continuous mentoring. I will leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Prof. I'm one of your mentees, so I know you are saying the truth. Thank you, sir. Thank you for who you are and for what you do. God bless you. At this point, can I bring in my friend, Moteshagaya, if you're there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead,
Fantastic. So for me, I see that the time has come for us to see things differently, and to put to test the phrase that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Sum of its parts, very true.
Absolutely. And for me, it's a simple case of to whom much is given, much is expected. Now, our great country, Nigeria, our rich cultures, our diversity, our people, our resources, that's the much that has been given to us all. And as such, we have to do everything within our power to ensure that we keep it working together and we maintain a cohesive vision. So for me, I think at this stage that elections are fast coming, I think we need to select leaders that have a demonstrated track record, right? And go on the basis of people that have created a cohesive vision that have been laid down and have been consecutively followed to yield results. So that is that will be my final contribution. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, my darling brother Moteshagaya. Let me go to Joy. Joy, are you there? Okay, while I'm waiting for Joy, let me invite Jaja. Right, Jaja, are you there? Okay, Joy, you're back. Go ahead, Joy. Your last minute intervention.
So for me, I believe that we should pass the purpose to the younger generation. When I'm talking about the younger generation, I'm not even referring to the youth. I'm referring to the teenagers, the children. Let them be patriotic because they are the futures of our tomorrow. So let's teach them patriotism. We neglect that a lot. We don't teach our younger children, the teenagers, the children about Nigeria, our culture, their identity, that they have only this one country in the continent that they belong to. They have ancestors. They don't know all this. I believe we should bring it home. We should teach our children, the young adults, the teenagers and the children, the ones less than 5 years old, they know all this, they want to know about the country. Teach them as much as possible. And I believe patriotism is an individual thing. We should all work towards becoming patriotic in our own way. We can do something for Nigeria in our own simple and easy way. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us, Joy. And I want to simply add something to that. I watched a video going viral on the social media a couple of weeks back, and I was very, very sad. I was sad because a 7-year-old girl was given a debate topic to speak about the situation in Nigeria. And for like 5 minutes of that speech, she could only relate to all the negatives that were happening all around her. And I started to ask myself, how does that child grow up believing in the nation if we're already feeding them with all the negatives there is around? When I was growing up, it was all about Nigeria first, Nigeria first. How do we become the Nigeria or the Nigerian of our dream? But unfortunately, these days, because of social media, because of using children as actors and getting likes on social media, we have invaded the space of those young people that are supposed to be the future leaders, and we're beginning to feed them the negatives. We really need to work on that. Let me bring in Bright Jaja. I think he's ready now. Bright, you have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you very much. I think this has been very inciting. I have learned a lot, especially from Professor, just really understanding. And I think that's one of the things I want to leave us with. We need to re-educate people, especially young people, on the importance of being patriotic. I have experienced traveling abroad and especially being in competitions where you just really see how young people appreciate and acknowledge their countries, flying their flags and putting it around their neck and just being proud of being part of that country. And I think we need to, for us to be able to achieve that, we need to create content that drives that message, using social media, using whatever platform we have to change that mentality and get people to understand that. And then also, like I said earlier, it has to do with individual activism. Patriotism is an individual thing. It's you deciding to put the country first. And once you decide that, especially if you have the capacity to do something, I think it's on us, because patriotism is not just saying, oh, I love Nigeria. It's what does Nigeria has to offer me, right? And so when it comes to that, we have to be the one to put in those structures in place, using technology, coming up with different designs, ideas, policies that would make Nigeria work. I'll close with this. If you've seen Thor, when they destroyed Asgard, and somebody came to Thor and said, we don't have a place to live. We don't have Asgard anymore. And he said, Asgard isn't a location or a destination. Asgard is you. Wherever you are, that is Asgard, right? So, and the same thing, wherever you are, whether you're in Europe, wherever you are Nigeria, that place becomes Nigeria because you're there.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you very much, Bai Jaja. I take that away from you. Wherever we are is where Nigeria is, because we are Nigerians and we make it Nigeria. Well done. Thank you. I'll finally go to Murtala. Murtala, are you there? You have your 1 minute of rounding up. Murtala, are you there? Okay, if you're not there, then I'll go to Mama Better Life. Mama, are you there?
The future of this country as Nigeria lies on the young one coming.
Yes,
when you go to the rural area, you discover the same child write the same exam with the one in the urban area. They don't have computer, they don't know what is called computer, they don't have even light. For them to read what others are reading in the urban area. How can we get a strong future Nigeria when the teachers are not being given their salary when it's due, when the children are not even going to school because of the insecurity? There are so many factors that the future of this country, if we didn't find a way out, Nigeria will not produce quality, sound education. You can see a doctor operating somebody living, he will be talking on phone, living, what do you call it?
Jesus.
Jesus in the stomach of a woman. Last time they refused to call the hospital that a phone was ringing in somebody's stomach. They saw the stomach with the phone inside. Tell me, sir, let's be honest to ourselves. We are deceiving ourselves in this country. When the teachers are not being paid, teacher is the first teacher. Teacher will teach you. Then what you teach the child will grow up with it. If you go to university, we now try to bring those few training facts now from their primary education they finish to this urban place we are today, so that they can catch up with the children here, because environment matters. The English, the language, everything. When you ask a child, how many states do we have in Nigeria? He can't tell you. A teacher cannot tell the child state and capital. He can't read it. Now, a teacher cannot even cite the Nigerian item.
You are absolutely right, Mama. Things have gone down. But we are working
to change all these situations.
We have to all be responsible and work towards it, Mama.
University on strike for about 7 months. So children are graduating in abroad. Then what about Nigeria? Doctors are running away from Nigeria because they are not being paid well. Lecturers are on strike. We are pleading with them to look at the poor man child. Let them come back to classes.
Thank you for your passion, Mama. Thank you, Ma. Thank you. God bless you. We're grateful, Ma.
Give us enough time for this platform. We will contribute our quota as far as we are alive.
We appreciate you, Ma. Thank you, Ma. Thank you very, very much. We do appreciate, and we are grateful that you came. We will still invite you again, Ma. So don't be tired of us. We will keep asking you to come and give us insight into those good old days. At this point, I would like to just say one thing about what Mama said about education. And I'm an educationist, and when I see what is going on in our rural areas, just like Mama says, I see a dysfunctional system. I see a disconnect between how we are teaching the children, the quality of our teachers, the classroom environment. I mean, you can't have a school that doesn't have a toilet. You can't have a school that doesn't have bathroom for, for girl child to when they are in their period. You can't have teachers that don't even know how to teach the curriculum. It's a difficult thing. So we all need to contribute to it. If you have an NGO that can support your local school in your community, please let them go there and provide that support. Don't let's leave everything to government. The children are dropping out of school. I keep saying that when they drop out of school, they are not dropping out of school to go and sleep. They are enrolling in another type of school. They are enrolling in the school of banditry, in the school of terrorism. It is only when they graduate from those schools that we see them on the streets. So please, let us do everything to keep our children in school. When they come out educated and they come out with skills, they are most likely to become good citizens, and they are definitely on the path of nationalism when they know that Nigeria has something to offer them, and they also have a lot to offer Nigeria as a country. At this point, I would like to bring back my host in the person of Malala Al-Kazim, so that he can bring in the lady that will do the closing prayers for today. The closing remarks for today. Thank you, Al-Kazim, for the opportunity, and thank you for all the good things you're doing. Al-Kazim Abdulkadir, please.
Wow. What a conversation. Thank you very, very much to all our panelists. Bright Jaja Adora, Mukhtar Shagaya, Haja Amina Wambai, Professor Okechukwu, Murtala Abdullahi, Joy Iloize, and our moderator, Olusoja Deni. Thank you all for your amazing contributions. And I noticed that during the session, we had very, very important personalities in the room. I'd like to specifically mention Dr. Mustafa Jibril, Dr. Musa Babayo, Dr. Sanusi Ohiere, Dr. Kingsley Mogalu, and T. Jumei Sambo, and Charles Adeogum Phillips. Thank you all very much for being part of this wonderful conversation. And the conversation has been Nigeria First as part of the first October 1st dialogue. At this point, I would like to call on Aisha Sambo for her closing remarks. Please, if you're online, let's have your closing remarks. Thank you very much, everyone, for being part of this wonderful conversation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for an interesting dialogue. Firstly, I would like to thank our wonderful speakers here today. Thank you for your time and all the ideas that were shared here today. I'm a big believer of ideas worth sharing, having hosted 3 TEDx events in my local community as a teenager and mentoring several other young TEDx organizers in Nigeria and in Africa. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to our audience and Her Excellency Aisha Babangida, the Chief Executive Convener of this dialogue. Your reward for doing this is just past this world, what this world can offer, for preserving your parents' legacy, our parents' legacy. And so may God continue to bless you. May God continue to bless everyone else here. I pray that Allah continues to bless, guide, and protect all of us as citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. God bless our people for their resilience, their humor, intelligence, and tenacity. So let me congratulate all of those who have helped to make this wonderful vision of the Mariam and Ibrahim Presidential Library Foundation a reality. We gather here today not just to celebrate a legacy, we gather to recognize a man. What makes General Ibrahim Babangida and Dr. Mrs. Mariam Babangida such an iconic figure for our story? How is it that these couples that wed in 1969 with the responsibility of leading a nation might come to represent so much of who we are as people and so much of what we aspire to be? Some of it has to do with our trajectory of his life. In his rise to ranks in the military, his self-study and ultimate mastery of empathy and strategy, in his capacity to overcome personal loss and remain determined in the face of repeated defeat. In all of this, we see a fundamental element of the Nigerian character, a belief we can constantly make ourselves to fit our larger dreams. Some of it has to do with the sheer energy of the man, the Maradona, looking out at a frontier of hope and possibility. Former President Babangida believed deeply in the reorienting of Nigerians to shun waste and vanity, promoting economic recovery for the country. The Nigerian spirit of resilience and exploration that accepts no limit to the heights of which our nation might reach. In all of this, the repeated act of self-creation, the intention that is the link between the heads and the hands should always be the heart. In all of this, General Babangida embodies our deepest myth. It is a methodology that drives us still. And yet, what separates General Babangida from other great men has to do with something else. It is an issue of character that speaks to us of moral resolve. General Babangida was not a perfect man, nor a perfect president. By modern standard, his condemnation of slavery might be considered tentative. His emancipation proclamation more of a military document than a clarion call for justice. He wasn't immune to political considerations either. And yet, despite these imperfections, indeed, perhaps because of his essential humanity, of this essential humanity of his, when it came time to confront the greatest moral challenge that this nation has ever faced, President Babangida did not flinch. He did not pass the challenge on to future generations, and he did not demonize the fathers and sons who did battle on the other side, nor seek to diminish the terrible cost of war. And in the complexity of governing a house divided, he kept his moral compass pointed, firm, and true. It serves us then to reflect on whether that element of General Babangida's character and the Nigerian character, that aspect which makes tough choices and speaks the truth when least convenient and acts while still admitting doubt, remains within us today. General Babangida once said that with each new book, the march of our national history takes a step forward. When one is present at a book launch, one is bearing witness to the birth of a new body of ideas, to the coming into being of another testimony of history. At a time when image all too often triumphs substance, when our politics all too often feeds rather than bridges division, when our prospects of a poor youth rising out of poverty seems of no consequence to the powerful, and when we evoke our common God to condemn those who do not think as we do, rather than to seek God's mercy for our own lack of understanding. At such a time, it is helpful to remember this man who was the real thing, General Badamasi Babangida, and his wife, Dr. Mrs. Mariam Babangida, reminds us that our essential greatness is not the shadow of sophistication or popularity, or wealth or power, or fleeting celebrity. It is the tree that stands in the face of our doubts and fears, insisting we can all do better. Today, we come to celebrate not just our nation or this foundation, but a man. And as the man called once upon the better angles of our nature, so is he still calling across the ages to summon some measure of character, his character in each of us today. And on that note, I'd like to end by reminding us that beyond this world, our single most important responsibility as humans is to leave this world a little bit more beautiful than we once left it for others to come. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Aisha.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I believe that that brings us to the end of the event today. Thanks everyone for joining us. We really, really look forward to you at the next conversation, to having you at the next conversation. Thanks again. Have a lovely, lovely Independence Day. Congratulations to Nigeria. Congratulations to the rest of us also. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. Thank you all.
Arise, oh